Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. Those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Maria, and today I'm going to be putting on a full face of makeup. Some are newly released and other products are new to me. I've already just put on some primer before I put on the foundation, and it is the by Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Primer. I've also used the Milk Hydro Grip Primer as well with the foundation that I'm about to use. So this foundation has been around for at least 4 years. It is called the YSL. It is the 24-hour Longwear Flawless Matte Full Coverage. It has a SPF of 20 and a PA of triple+. It is made in France, and this also has some skincare ingredients, and one of them is, or it says it's been infused with black tea. Now I got this in the shade B40 in Sand. They don't seem to have as much of a selection here in New Zealand as perhaps they do overseas, but this is a really good match for me. The other thing about this foundation is that it holds 25 mils, and most foundations you'll find they're around the 30 mil mark. But it isn't too badly priced. I think this was just over 100 New Zealand dollars. And Sephora New Zealand does tend to up the prices a bit here in New Zealand. And I understand that the same foundation in the USA sort of sells for around the 50-something dollar mark. So here is the outside packaging of the foundation. And I only got this a few days ago, but I have worn this, I'm trying to think how many times, at least 3 times. This foundation is beautiful. It does have full coverage, like it says. I just had a look on their website though, and it says it's medium to full coverage. Well, I would say it is a strong medium and definitely buildable to a full coverage. But I wanted to show you how beautiful this foundation looks, and it is great with my oily skin and also with my mature skin. It doesn't settle into my lines and wrinkles, and it just goes on really beautifully. And I don't know why I haven't tried this before, and I hadn't really heard of it either. But my friend, who also has a YouTube channel, his name is Zack, and he is an esthetician and he's also a makeup artist. And he swears by this foundation, and he really influenced me to buy this. So I'm going to put the link to Zack's channel below in the description box. So go and check him out. You'll really love his content. He gives really useful tutorials both on skincare and also on makeup. So I'm going to take this foundation out. It's just in a fairly plain bottle with frosted glass. It has a pull-off lid and a pump dispenser. Now I've been using about a pump and a half of this foundation when I've been using it, and I'll show you the consistency of it. It isn't too thick, and you can just see it start to slide down my hand, but it's not very runny either. So I would describe this foundation as a soft matte, and even though it's great for my oily skin, I would say this would even be suitable for normal and perhaps even towards dry skin. Now I do set this foundation down, and it is getting towards the end of spring here in New Zealand, and the weather has started to get quite a lot warmer. So I've actually baked this foundation on. I've done it both ways. I've just done a light powder with a brush and also baked it on with the Beauty Blender sponge as well. In both ways it looks really, really beautiful. So I'll start putting this on. I'll just put a bit on my Beauty Blender. I've also put this on using my BK Beauty 101 foundation brush. Both look really, really beautiful. So it doesn't really matter whether you use a brush or a sponge. It just gives a really beautiful finish. Now this foundation does have a fragrance. I don't find it overpowering in any way, and it doesn't seem to linger either. And because this is a soft matte foundation and doesn't feel dry when you put it on, I will put just what's left after putting it on my left side of my face on my eyelids and just under my eyes as well. So that is with the left side of my face with just one layer of the foundation, and my right side, which I've yet to do. So you can see it is, I would say it is a full coverage foundation, but it doesn't look thick like a lot of full coverage foundations can look. It feels really beautiful on the skin. And like I said, I found that this wears all day. I've had it on anywhere from 8 hours up to 14 hours. And it looks as beautiful as when you just put it on. And one of the days that I wore it, it was quite a hot day, and I was washing my dog, and it even stayed on through that. And you probably think, well, that's not really a big deal that it stayed on while you wash your dog. Well, I've got a really big Newfoundland dog, and from start to finish, washing and drying him, it takes me up to 4 hours to do that. And because I have really sensitive eyes, and when I start drying them, all the fur starts flying around, so I wear these goggles. And even after doing that and having the goggles on my face, my eyeshadow that I had been wearing and the mascara had started to move a bit because I tend to sweat under the goggles. That had started to fade after the 4 hours and had moved around, but the foundation was still there. So when I say it stays put, it really does stay put. And those of you that have watched some of my other videos know that one of my favorites, and I've had it since I've been 28 years old, bought, and that's the Estee Lauder. That is the Double Wear Stay in Place makeup, and that is really beautiful too, and I do love that for the summer. I would say that that foundation probably feels, I don't think it's a heavy feeling foundation, but it would feel heavier and a little bit drier on the skin than this one. So that is with all the foundation on now, and as you can see, I think it is a full coverage. The only thing that sort of comes through are sunspots. I have some there, I have a large one there, and some up here, but you can only just see them. If I really wanted to be super fussy and have like a flawless canvas, I could always pop some concealer on top, but really just for everyday type of makeup, this looks fine. I just love the finish. Even though it's full coverage, I don't think it looks cakey. It does minimize my pores. It says it has a blurring effect. It also says it's never too matte and never too shiny, and I would agree with that. That's exactly how it feels. So now I'm going to put some concealer on under my eyes, my eyeshadow primer, and do my eyebrows off camera because none of those are new or new to me products. And then I'll be back and I will powder down this foundation. So I have powdered under my eyes. I use the by Terry, it's the Hyaluronic Hydra-Powder. It's the pressed one, and I find that really perfect for under my eyes. It just doesn't dry down too much. But for the rest of my face, today I'm going to use the Sisley one. This is in the shade Too Matte. And for some reason, I keep knocking this powder. It knocks off the table. It's done it about 3 or 4 times. So it is quite messy. So when I open it up, I hope we don't get this cloud of powder everywhere. This is a really beautiful powder. I'm going to bake this on using the same beauty blender that I used to put on my foundation, and it is still slightly damp. So that's what it looks like inside. So you can see it's pretty messy in there, so I'll have to go fairly carefully. But as I was saying before, I've also, with the powdering this foundation, have just done a light dusting with a brush, and as well as baking it like this. Today it is more warmer here, so I just want to bake it in just so it does last for a good 12 to 14 hours. I think if it was winter time, I would just do a light dusting with a fluffy powder brush that I normally use. So I just press that in. I don't go anywhere near under my eyes. I've talked about this before. I would never bake under my eyes because it would just age them probably at least 10 years, and I don't want that look. So this is just for my face, and it's because I just have such oily skin, and if I want a really perfected type of finish, that stays matte looking all day, not a dry matte, but I just want a soft matte look all day, then this is what I do. It just works really well for my skin. And if you have really oily skin and you haven't tried baking on powder with a damp beauty blender before, then it may be worth a go. So I've put that powder to one side, and hopefully it won't get knocked off the table. I don't want to keep dropping it all the time. So I'm just using my BK Beauty, it's just the 102, it's the 102 brush, and just sweep off any excess powder. And now I'm going to put on some bronzer. I picked this up probably at least 6 weeks, 2 months ago, because I had seen the Dolce and Gabbana packaging and I just wanted to get a couple of items. And one was a bronzer and the other one was a blush that I will use in another upcoming video when there's a few new to me products that I want to show you. This is the bronzer. It's called Solar Glow. It's the ultra light bronzing powder, and it is in the color 60 Sunset. It came in this really lovely gold packaging. Inside is a velvet type pouch, and the packaging itself is just really, really beautiful. You may have seen this before on other videos, but it really is just stunning. This is also really heavy duty packaging. It feels beautiful in the hand. It has a little clasp that you press in to open it up, and no matter what angle you put the lid at, it stays. It's just really robust. It has a beautiful generous size mirror on the inside, and I'll just hold it a bit closer so you can take a look at the bronzer itself. I have used this about 3 or 4 times and I really love it, and I love the formula, but I haven't used it enough that it's taken away the embossing there of the Dolce and Gabbana. This is made in Italy. It has a shelf life of 36 months from date of opening, and it also has 16 grams of product. So I'm going to take the Rapha number 22 brush. This brush picks up the product in here beautifully, and this has a very slight shimmer in it, but just a very subtle glow. There's nothing chunky about this bronzer, or it doesn't look too glittery either.
We got a brand new day, good love is on the way, and if you take my hand, I'll walk with you to Georgia.
So now let's get on to the eyeshadow. About a month ago I picked up, it was newly released then, this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Primrose Palette. This is described on her website that you can use some shades, I think she means as a bronzer and for contouring. I'll show you the palette soon, but I wouldn't use it for that. It has a blush in it and a shade that can possibly be used as a blush, and perhaps what she means as a bronzer as well, although I wouldn't use the shade as a bronzer. It comes in this really pretty, it's just soft pink packaging. It feels like a cardboard, but it does have a really beautiful embossing on it. It does have a magnetic closure, and I haven't taken the sticker off on the mirror on this yet. There is a generous size mirror. And here are the shades. Now I have used this palette about 2 or 3 times just to get a feel of what the formula was like, because about 6 months ago I did pick up a palette of hers. I think it's called the Ambreezy palette. It was in bright pink packaging, and gave that a go, and it was okay. Just okay. I wasn't that sort of over fussed with it, so I was a little bit hesitant in picking this up. But this eyeshadow palette does blend really beautifully, and it really packs a punch, and the eyeshadows are just really beautifully pigmented as well. So I'm going to swatch this on my arm. So I'll start off with the metallic. This is on the top row. I'll do the eyeshadows first and then do the 2 blushes last. So the first one is Rose Water. This feels really soft in the pan. It's described as a metallic bright opal with multi-dimensional reflex. Here is Rose Water. Next is Honey. It's a matte sandy beige. Then we have Sparkling Amber. This is described as a metallic rose gold with multi-dimensional reflex. And you can see that they are really beautiful. They do swatch beautifully and they really pack a punch. They are beautiful colours. And next is Primrose. It is a matte dusty rose with multi-dimensional reflex, and it really does. I don't know whether the camera picks that up. I'm just going to swatch over that again. It does have a very, very subtle sparkle in it. It's a really pretty colour. And last on the top row is Mango. It's a matte coral peach. And then the first shade on the bottom row is called Peony, and that is a sparkling petal pink with gold reflex. Next is Rouge. It's a matte rose beige brown. Next is Fire Opal, and that is described as a metallic bright copper with opal reflex. And the last two shades are mattes, and I'm running out of room, so I'm going to put this one right up here. This one, second to last on the bottom row, is Deep Berry. And then the final one is Claret, which is a matte rich plum. So I think I will put that at the very end here. Hopefully you can see it. And then the last two shades, I've run out of room, so they're the blushes. And so I've put them on the back of my hand here. This one here is Grapefruit, and this one here is Saddle. And they feel both like mattes. So you can see from the swatches on my arm that these are really pigmented. There is a lot of fallout with the shadows when you tap the brush in and go to put them on your lid. I do have to tap them off. I don't normally tap off eyeshadow very much, and I'm going to edit that out as much as I can because that whole tapping situation I just find really annoying when I watch videos. So I'm going to start off with, I think I'm going to do more of a bronze look today. So I'm going to take my Rapha number 15 brush, and I'm going to start off with the shade called Mango.
From high above, and if the answer's no, well then I'd like to get to know you. And though I know these lights are blinding,
I'm going to take my Rapha number 14 brush, and I'm going to go into my crease more and put in this colour here. This is the colour Rouge.
'Cause I don't know what I've been told. The weather outside is not that cold, and if you take my hand, I'll walk with you to Georgia. And I don't know what those men see, but I see you right next to me.
And I'm going to use that same colour. This is the Rapha number 3 brush, and put that shade on my lower lash line. Then I'm going to take the Sonia G Soft Definer brush. This is from the Lotus set. And I just want to soften this out a bit because these shadows do have a lot of pigment, and I just want to soften that colour out just a little bit. And then using that same shade again, the same one that I put on my crease and on my lower lash line, I'm going to take the Sonia G Worker 3, and I'm going to put this on the outer corner.
Right next to me, and if you take my hand, I'll walk with you to Georgia.
And next I'm going to take the Sonia G. This is the Builder Pro brush, and I'm going to go into this shade here. This is Fire Opal.
love will soon arrive, and when it does, then come a little closer. Have you ever
And then for my inner corner, I'm going to take the reference number 3. I've just given this a wipe on the cloth in front of me. And I'm going to go into this shade here. This is called Rose Water. And I want to put this on the very inner corner. These shades are really soft, so you don't have to dig into the pan. You will get a lot of fallout. So even though I've used this palette before, I hadn't used the shade Fire Opal. That's this one here. And it is a really beautiful copper shade. But I just want to try putting Sparkling Amber just over the top and see what that looks like. Now I'm going to put this on with my finger. They pack a punch with a brush. So I just want to go very, very lightly with this. So now I'm going to line my eyes. I'm going to use the Chanel one. This is in the shade Espresso. This is the Longwear eyeliner. Now I'm going to put on some mascara. This I bought probably about a month ago, maybe about 3 weeks ago. It's the new Kjaer Weis. It's the I'm Possible mascara, and it comes in this packaging. I've used this about 3 or 4 times now. I really like this mascara. I think it gives great volume. You can also layer it, and it doesn't smudge throughout the day. So those of you that haven't seen it, here is the packaging. It's in a really beautiful red, and these mascaras are also refillable. So how it works is you can pull off the lid, and there's this part in here that pulls right out, and then later on, once you've used the mascara or it's come to its time when it needs to be thrown out, say you've used it 3 or 6 months, I throw mine out after 3 months. Some people keep them about 6 months, and it does have a 6-month time frame on this from date of opening. And so you just buy the refill and pop it back into this really beautiful packaging and just pop the lid on. And then you just twist off the top, and there is the mascara. And this is the brush. And I've already curled my eyelashes, so now I'll pop this mascara on. The hairs, one side is flat, and I use that first.
Have you ever seen the stars burn out into the dark, and as they go say, it was nice to know you. And though I know these lights are blinding, I will guide us home.
And staying with this palette, I'm now going to put on some blush. And these are the 2 here. This is the one Grapefruit and the one Saddle. And I was thinking about, I haven't really tried this on my face at all, this colour. And I was thinking possibly about taking my brush and dabbing into both colours and putting it on. But if I just touch this colour, and this is very lightly, it is just so pigmented that I just don't think it'll look any good. Not on my skin and not for a blush. I think if I was ever going to use this colour in the future, for me, I would use it as part of an eyeshadow look. So what I'm going to use for the blush today is this colour, Grapefruit. I think this is a really, really pretty colour. So I'm going to take my SUQQU brush. This is the FO3 one.
I don't know what I've been told. The weather outside is not that cold, and if you take my hand, I'll walk with you to Georgia. And I don't know what those men see, but I see you right next to me.
So you can see how pigmented all of the colours are in this palette. I only had to dip that soft SUQQU brush in once, and I got that payoff. And I'm glad I just stuck with that Grapefruit colour. But I do think it is really, really pretty. I also want to put on some highlights. So I'm going to use, it's a SUQQU, it's the blush palette. And this is the 103. I reviewed this in a video not long ago. and this has 4 cream blushes, or satin ones. The satin blushes. They are the 4 blushes there, and these are the 2 highlight shades. So I'm going to take my PreHoliday, this is the KZ03, this is the highlight brush, and I'm going to go into this shade at the top. And I've just popped on some lipstick, and this is the Kjaer Weis lipstick. This is in the shade Thoughtful. And then over the top, I put on a Pat McGrath lip gloss. This is in the shade Dreamscape, I think it is. Yeah, it's in the colour Dreamscape, just to give it just a little bit of sheen, and overall it looks really, really beautiful. So finally, I'm just going to take the Sonia G Face 1 brush and the Chantecaille, the blurring powder, and just sweep some of this all over my face. So here is the final look, and I think overall it looks really, really beautiful. I love this foundation. It is just gorgeous and really gives a real flawless look to my skin. It still feels matte. Mind you, I have just put on the Chantecaille blurring powder as well, so I'd be very surprised if I was oily just yet. But as I said, I've worn it before and it seems to stay matte, especially when I've powdered it down. It's just really beautiful. It just has that effect of covering my pores. It's full enough coverage to cover my redness and any discoloration that I have, but doesn't give that really heavy cakey look. I just think it looks really, really beautiful. So thank you, Zack, for recommending me this foundation. I really love it. And I'm going to have to do a video in the future. I've got so many foundations now, and a lot of them I do really love. Some are more suited to summer than winter, and some for all year round. So I'll need to divide them up somehow and do some videos on my favorite ones. The bronzer is really, really beautiful, and the packaging is just divine. Absolutely gorgeous. And as I said, I've also bought a Dolce Gabbana blush. It's in this really light pink, and the packaging on the front is slightly different, the artwork, but it is still just as gorgeous. Really luxury, beautiful packaging. And the eyeshadow palette definitely packs a punch. I was thinking that if it was a person who wanted more of a subtle type of look, you're not really going to get it with this palette. The only way you would get that is if you use the shades Honey and the shade Mango. But any of these other shades, no matter how lightly you go in with a brush, they really do layer on the pigment. So if you don't mind a bold look, then this really is a gorgeous palette. All the shades are really, really beautiful. As I said, this is the first time I used that shade Fire Rose, and it just looks really, really stunning. It's such a beautiful copper. The mascara, the Kjaer Weis one, the I'm Possible, is really beautiful. I've used it a few times now. I think it gives really good volume. I haven't got the longest of lashes, but they're not that short either. And considering what I have, this mascara does a fantastic job. It just layers beautifully and it doesn't transfer or smudge throughout the day. The blush from this eyeshadow palette is really beautiful too. As I said, the colour Saddle, I don't think I would use on my face or as underneath a blush or mix the two. They are just so pigmented that I just think this colour would be too much for me. But you could use it as an eyeshadow. It is a really lovely colour, just not one that I would put on my face. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye.